a stand-up comedian. I just adored watching comics on television. A matter of fact, when myself and Isabella got married, my best man was Noel V. Ginnity, who's a famous comic south of the border and in America. But one of my heroes during that period, and I think he would have been a hero of many people, was the Irish comedian Dave Allen, who lived in England at the time and was much loved in England and had his own show on the BBC for many, many years. Now, Dave Allen's subject matter was always religion and the church, and he delivered it brilliantly. And that's why I modeled myself on it. Now, it was not the right year for that in Holy Catholic Ireland, and I was too naive to understand that. So, my timing in comedy was very, very good. My timing with delivering this type of comedy was pretty poor. And I got an invitation. I did many, many venues around Dublin. And I got an invitation to do a gig in University College Dublin. Now, I should have read the invitation a little bit more carefully. The invitation was not on behalf of the arts department. It was the agricultural department. And rural Ireland had not quite reached the same destiny as South County Dublin at that time. And I don't think Dave Allen was known in rural Ireland. However, as you can see, I managed to get out alive just about at that particular time. But one of my heroes also at that time was a comedian called George Carlin, an American comedian. I would advise, if you go to Google him, there is a serious trigger warning. He's not for everybody. He's quite an elderly man now, but in his day, he was outrageously controversial. And I was drawn to him as well. Just as well I didn't do a part of his piece in front of the agricultural students. I could have ended up being ploughed into a field somewhere in the west of Ireland. But George Carlin, in his hilarious analysis of the Ten Commandments, said at one venue, to loud applause, "More people have been killed in the name of God than for any other reason." And this is a stand-up comic, George Carlin, and that was the line on a night in a venue in America that he got most applause and cheers for, when he said, "More people have been killed in the name of God than for any other reason." And many people around the world, you'll even hear some of your own contemporaries say, they take that as a fact, that religion has been the cause of most deaths through violence and conflict in the world. However, when I say, hear someone repeat that line of George Carlin, or say that religion has caused most wars, I will ask them to please name the wars that religion has caused. And the response is typically, "Oh, come on, every war has been connected to religion." And I say, "No, please name them." The Crusades, an obvious one. The Spanish Inquisition, another one, wasn't actually a war. It was just torturing people for not believing in the right church. Northern Ireland, it's debatable whether the conflict here was actually related to religion. In part it was. And 9/11, which led to terrible violence throughout the Middle East. We know, of course, 9/11 was, as was the Crusades. And then people will say to you, "Need I name more?" And I always point out, "But that's only a handful. You said most wars. So tell me all the other wars." Well, yes, we do need a few more names, Because when clearly there were wars that had religion as the prime cause, an objective look at history reveals that those killed in the name of religion have in fact been a tiny fraction in the bloody history of human conflict. In their recently published book, actually it wasn't that recent, it was quite a few years ago, Encyclopedia of Wars, authors Charles Phillips and Alan Axelrod documented the history of recorded warfare. From the list of, beginning in 1763 wars, only 123 have been classified to involve a religious cause, accounting for less than 7% of all wars since 1763 have been specifically because of religion. Less than 2% of all people killed in wars have been directly caused by religious wars. While, for example, it is estimated that approximately 1 to 3 million people were killed in the Crusades. 1 to 3 million people killed in the Crusades. And perhaps 3,000 people died in the Spanish Inquisition. However, 35 million soldiers and civilians died in World War I, which was not a religious war. Now, to be fair, they didn't have the same mechanism during the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition. So it was harder to kill multitudes of people then than it is now. And of course, populations were much smaller. In Philip and Axelrod's 3-volume Encyclopedia of Wars, which chronicles some 1,763 wars, have been waged over the course of human history. Of these wars, as I said, they categorized 123 being religious in nature. In other words, being absolutely a war because of religion, which is astonishingly low. As the figures show, 6.98%. 6.98% of all wars were caused by religion. And however, when one subtracts out of these wars those waged in the name of Islam, 66, the percentage is cut by more than half to 3.23%. So half the wars caused by religion were related to the Islamic faith. That's a fact. I'm not making that up to be anti-Islam. I'm just saying that's a fact. And 3.23% were the cause of other religions. This means that all faiths combined, minus Islam, have caused less than 4% of all humanity's wars and violent conflicts. Further, they played no motivating role in the major wars that have resulted in most loss of life, were not because of religion. So the truth is, non-religious motivation and naturalistic philosophies bear the blame for nearly all of humankind's wars. Lives lost during religious conflict pale into comparison to those experienced during the regimes who wanted nothing to do with the idea of God. Something showcased in R.J. Rummel's work, Lethal Politics and Death by Government. Now this is very important. Governments have caused more deaths in wars than anybody else. As I said, religious wars pale into significance compared to wars in the name of politics and secular beliefs, and most caused by governments. And this is now according to R.J. Rummels in his book, Lethal Politics and Death by Government. These are the figures. I know this is a bit bleak, but these are the figures. Joseph Stalin was responsible for 42,672,000 deaths. Mao Zedong was responsible for 37,828 deaths. Adolf Hitler, slightly pales compared to Mao Zedong and Joe Stalin, Adolf Hitler was responsible for 20,946 deaths. I would question that figure because I think Russia probably lost that amount of people alone during the Second World War. Chiang Kai-shek was responsible for 10,214,000 deaths. And Vladimir Lenin, during the Bolshevik Revolution and its aftermath, was responsible for 4,017,000 deaths. And the Emperor of Japan was responsible for 3,990,000 deaths. I would probably question that one because the Emperor of Japan was also a religious leader of Japan. However, as you can see, the figures by people who were anti-God, anti-religion, are astronomical. Pol Pot, 2,397,000 deaths. And overall, calculating all the deaths, according to Rummels' book, calculating all the deaths throughout all wars which had nothing to do with religion, it's a possible figure of 360 million people. The mind boggles at the thoughts of that. Killed in the name of some political ideology or whatever, and by totalitarian governments in general in power. It is though our species have been devastated by a modern Black Plague, and indeed it has, but a plague not of germs, a plague of power, because most of those wars were to do with ideology and power. So I think in some ways though it's unfair to blame on religion. And if religion can't be blamed for those wars of violence, then what is the primary cause? The same thing that triggers all crime, cruelty, loss of life, and other such things. In Mark 7:21, Jesus provides some insight when he said, from within, out of the hearts of men, proceed the evil thoughts. Let me just say that again. For from within, out of the hearts of men, proceed the evil thoughts. Power-hungry men, and it's usually men, who want to control everybody's destiny. Maybe we shouldn't even blame ideologies or extreme politics, because some ideologies start out as well-meaning. People will always tell you that communism is about sharing. It's about a fairer society, and yet we see, in the name of Marxism, Stalin and Mao Zedong kill millions and millions of people. Well, maybe it's not the ideology's fault. Maybe we shouldn't blame extreme political belief systems, but the hatred in some hearts and the obsession of holding on to power. No matter how weak and bad our systems are in Western Europe, we should be thankful that when a guy really gets up our nose, we can vote him out of power a few years later. We might vote someone else in who's not an awful lot better, but then we know a few years down the road, he can go as well. It's not brilliant, but God, it's better than what some of these guys do. We see it with Putin's Russia. That's nothing to do with religion. I know he's suddenly decided he's part of the Russian Orthodox Church. Putin was a KGB man, a devout KGB man, a devout communist in every sense of the word, a Stalinist in his heart. He only tied religion now onto his campaign about his own selfish greed for power, because he's using the religion, the tradition, the culture of the Russian people to try and rally people round him. And again, it's not religion is the cause. It's the sin of greed, the sin of wanting absolute power, control. I like the following from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And I think for me, it's a very profound statement, and it applies to all religions other than the ones that the Dalai Lama mentioned in the following quote. Any person who wants to indulge in violence is no longer a genuine Buddhist or Muslim, because it is a Muslim teaching that once you're involved in bloodshed, you're no longer a genuine practitioner of Islam. All major religious traditions carry the same message, a message of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline is at the heart of all world religions. And that's what we should practice. Amen.